Welcome to the City Council meeting for Tuesday, September 20th, 2022. Ms. Hilbrick, will you please call roll?
Councilman De La Garza?
I am present.
Councilwoman Solis?
Here.
Councilman Crocker?
Here.
Councilwoman Scott?
Here.
Councilman Lofgren?
Here.
And Mayor Buchanan.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Young will not be joining the meeting tonight.
And if you all please stand for pledges followed by a moment of silence. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. All right, welcome everybody. Starting to see familiar faces out there. Howdy. Let's go on and jump into announcements and reminders.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. We have a couple for you this evening. I want to ask Tiffany if she's here. There she is. Tiffany to provide you an update on the child passenger safety car seat program.
Good evening. I just wanted to remind council and the public that we do have a child passenger safety event this Thursday. It'll be from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Victoria Community Center. We are taking appointments at victoriatx.gov/car seat, or they can contact municipal court at 361-485-3050. So just a reminder about that event this Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Victoria Community Center parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Toda. I have one, if you have no others. The regularly scheduled meeting for October 4th, we're going to move and call a special council meeting for Monday, October the 3rd, so that those that want to attend National Night Out events may do so. So just want everybody to be aware, it'll be the first Monday of the month, not the first Tuesday of the month for our next meeting.
You're canceling the one on Tuesday?
Yes.
Not having two in a row?
No, ma'am. With that, we'll close the announcements and reminders and go into public and employee recommendations. We have one proclamation.
Yes, item B2A is the Child Passenger Seat Week proclamation. Whereas children are our future and it is the responsibility of parents and caregivers to keep America's children safe, and whereas car seats are required by law for children traveling in motor vehicles, and whereas research analyzed by the Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center shows that in the U.S. only 1 in 4 child car seats are properly installed, and whereas research shows when installed and used correctly, child safety seats decrease the risk of fatal injury by 71% among infants, 54% among toddlers, and 45% among children ages 4 to 8, and whereas parents and guardians must make sure that children aged 13 and under are always ride in a back seat, buckled up, and properly installed child safety seats, and a rear-facing child seat should never be placed in the front seat of a motor vehicle equipped with a passenger airbag. And whereas the City of Victoria encourages parents and caregivers to implement best practices for traveling safely with children and are committed to working closely with our partners and safety advocates to help make the kind of choices that will keep children alive and safe. And whereas children riding in the right seat for their age and size can be accomplished by a car seat inspection and ensures the safety of a child while traveling. Now, therefore, I, Jeff Buchanan, Mayor of the City of Victoria, do hereby proclaim the week of September 18th through 24th, 2022 as Child Passenger Safety Week. We encourage all citizens to help reduce injuries and the tragic loss of life by buckling up themselves and their children every trip, every time.
Okay, any other public or employee recognitions?
No, sir.
Okay. Then we'll go to items from council. I have 2 items. First one, let's go through the Library Advisory Board meeting update. Mr. Garza.
All right, thank you, Mayor. A week ago on September 13th, the Library Advisory Board held a special workshop to specifically talk about the collection development policy. This obviously was a very well covered meeting, so I'm sure for the most part, everybody's aware of what took place at that meeting. But I do want to very quickly go through a few highlights. You do have in front of you a copy of the approved collection development policy. That evening, the Library Advisory Board did approve an update to that policy, so you have that in front of you. You also have copies of the Library Bill of Rights, the Freedom to Read Statement, and the Freedom to View Statement, simply just to have for your convenience and resource. I want to briefly highlight a few sections of it, and I'll start with the one that references these three statements. We had a very good discussion with the board. I will say that all of the board members were very involved with the discussion and conversation. It was a 3-hour meeting. And so I appreciate also staff and the residents that showed up and sat through that 3-hour meeting. But anyway, we had a really good conversation around the purpose of the policy specific to these statements. And I posed a question to the board that I would also pose to you to ponder on, which is, what is the city's position on these statements as it relates to, what's the issue, what's the concern? We obviously know that, we don't want to necessarily subscribe fully to the ALA because it's our local library and we're trying to go down that path. But we actually went through reading each policy, and the Library Advisory Board members felt there was no issue with any of the content. And so then we posed the question, okay, is the issue the source or the content? And if the issue is the source, well, then an easy solution would be to simply take some of the same content and just draft it in a more localized document, if those are the principles that we want to adhere with the library. Ultimately, the board decided to keep the reference to the 3 documents, but moving them to a bullet point that actually started off focused on the Victoria Public Library. And so as minimal as that change might be, the intent behind it was to ensure that first and foremost, it's the mission, goals, and philosophy of the Victoria Public Library that comes first. And then ultimately, it's these guiding principles of these documents that, are part of the conversation, but not the all be all. And that ultimately, it's the local goals and mission of the library that comes first. And so that was a very intentional change to that part of the policy. I won't go through each section. I'll simply highlight that there was a short revisit of the conversation around community standard, and there are several sections throughout the policy that already reference some sort of reference to the needs and interests of our community. You'll see that in the selection criteria. That's the very first bullet, current and anticipated needs and interests of the community. You see it under the section of collection maintenance, which reads, VPL practices a policy of continuous collection evaluation that is guided by the needs and desires of our community. And then we actually added a reference under the reasons for removal and made that the last bullet, which was the needs and demands of the library's community of users. We actually took that verbiage specifically or verbatim out of the crew manual, which is a manual that's put out by the Texas State Library that we use and that every library in the state uses as a way to weed out materials from their collection. And one of the criteria, one of the elements that document uses as a guiding principle is the needs and demands of the library's community of users. And because there's a lot of focus on trying to ensure that this development collection policy centered around our community, we specifically took that verbiage and added it there. The other area that I want to highlight quickly is the suggestions about collections. This is one item that I think is sometimes overlooked. So you also have in front of you a summary that kind of starts off with a donut pie chart looking thing. This is simply to illustrate what we've done with 47 recommendations that came from those reevaluation forms that were submitted later at the end of last year. There's a lot of focus placed on obviously those books that were submitted for reevaluation. But you may or may not be familiar that in that form, when somebody submits that reevaluation, we actually ask them for recommendations on books that they'd like to see in the collection to replace the ones that they've requested to be removed from circulation. And from that stemmed 47 books. And out of those, 25 were purchased by our library staff, 19 were unavailable, 2 were actually donated, and 1 was already part of the collection. And so we highlighted this to simply make the point to the board and to those present, and I'm making it tonight, that our library staff is extremely professional, extremely unbiased, and truly trying to take into account all perspectives and all viewpoints in our community. And I think this example, showcases that. And so we are certainly, again, striving to having a diverse collection within the library. And again, this example showcases that effort. Behind this summary sheet, you also have the very specific list of what those books were, or are, I should say. The last section of the policy is a request for reevaluation. This is where we originally thought there would be the most change, because the board had already decided at a previous meeting that they wanted to focus more of the attention on the reevaluation process as opposed to the collection coming into the library. They felt very strongly that the collection coming into the library should be diverse, should be broad, and it's through the reevaluation process and the weeding process that you go about analyzing the collection. Ultimately, though, there was some minor changes to this, simply just to clarify the process that already exists, which is, as you know, that the reevaluation form goes to the library director. Library director makes a decision, and if the resident wants to appeal, they appeal to the library advisory board. We very specifically asked the library advisory board if this was a role that they wanted to continue having, or if they wanted to, pass it to you, or just come up with another solution. And they actually all were very willing to continue to serve in that capacity. And so that stayed in there as well. But like I said, ultimately that was the verbiage that was included, was just to reinforce the process that already takes place. Ultimately, the board, as I mentioned, approved the updates to the policy. And now, of course, we're sharing it with you for ideally further guidance. So happy to answer any questions.
I have some questions on the suggested material from the book evaluation.
On the what? I'm sorry, I
On the one
couldn't
with
hear
the
you.
chart.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Is your mic on?
Hello? No, it is. Okay, on this chart right here, what does it mean when you're saying items unavailable? In other words, they weren't found in our library out of those?
No,
40?
that they weren't found like to purchase somewhere, right? I think, but staff can clarify that. That's my understanding of it. So when they went through trying to actually purchase and acquire these 47 books, they just couldn't find some. And the ones that they could find to purchase, we did, which were the 25. Correct? Yeah, absolutely.
So they weren't available through our book jobber. We use a warehouse book jobber that libraries, it's one of several companies that libraries use throughout the United States. They weren't available as new items on Amazon. They may have been as used items, but we do not usually purchase a used item. It can be marked in, it can be damaged. It would not be of the best quality, but we were not able to buy it as a new item. There's also decisions we make to purchase things that are older. We look at those very critically because we want to make sure how old is it and is the material still relevant if it's 10 years old and being suggested. So those are some of the things that we looked at with that.
So are you saying these books that say item unavailable are not in our library?
That's correct.
So if we were to look at this list, the only ones that are here are the ones that are purchased, the ones that are donated, and the VPL collection?
That was one we already had in our collection.
I just took one. I don't have to choose. It's a paperback from December 1st, 2016, less than 10 years. There's 11 new on Amazon right now.
But these were already purchased. They're in our library, the ones in the gold.
The ones that are in gold, yes.
Are they part of the books that are being questioned?
These are items that were listed on the reevaluation form. When we received a reevaluation form from an individual, there were some that had on the line that said, what book do you recommend to replace this item? That was a title that was listed, that was suggested to us by some individuals that submitted requests.
Okay, explain the process one more time because I'm not catching you.
Okay.
Okay, these books that are in the gold were purchased with city money, tax money, let's say.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Are these books that were requested to replace another book that was on that list originally, or are these books that were on the list?
They were not books that were reevaluation titles, okay? So we have an individual, let's say Jane. She fills out a request for a reevaluation of an item that we have in the library, the book. She says, I want the book removed from the library. Another question on that reevaluation form is, do you have any suggestions of titles you would like to have us add or use as a replacement for the title you are asking be removed from our library? On that line, Jane then writes the title of the book, if she's got one, that she would prefer to see in our library. We look at those, we review them, we take those recommendations into consideration, and we purchase 25 of those.
And they were the ones that somebody asked to replace a book that was already in the library.
That's correct.
So these are requests? Additions, but they're
Yes.
not,
Not replacements.
okay. And where are these books located? In the library, please?
They could be adult, they could be young adult, or they could be children's. They vary.
I got a question. When I was looking through the children's section this past week, you have in there a movie section. And if you go through every movie that's available, there's no R-rated movies available in the youth section, which is how I would expect it to be. What don't understand is why our collection development policy doesn't address the same thing for R-rated content in books.
Because books are not rated. They are not rated by R, PG, whatever, X, they're not. And that
I know
rating
there's not a system out there,
that
but-
movie rating system was created by a company that the movie industry hires to create ratings. So our books do not have ratings.
Therein lies the problem, and we need to be mindful of that when we're choosing books. And
There's
I
not a
expect-
rating system for books.
I understand that. But there are websites out there that do provide some guidance on them. And I think that we need to go back after we have some more members on the Library Advisory Board, maybe take one more stab at it. Because I don't feel like the Library Advisory Board heard what the council had said the last time when we discussed it. The majority had said, number one, let's get it so we don't keep bringing these books into the library. And then if they are in the library, we're not trying to remove the books. We want to put them in a different section and how to classify the books based on content and age appropriateness. So I don't think that they got this on this round, but I'm willing to give new board members a chance. There's potential of up to 7 new board members within the next month going on the board.
When,
So.
Mayor, if I may, one of the things that I forgot to mention that was discussed at the Library Advisory Board meeting was that this development collection policy is intended to address the books coming into the library, but doesn't address, there's no section in this policy that addresses how you go about placing those books once they come in any particular section, right? And so if what you're referring to is having a conversation around a policy that does that, that does take into account what you do with a book once you get it in terms of placement, right? This policy doesn't have any reference to that, right? So we would be creating something from scratch. And we had a meeting, Allison, Dana, and I, where we agreed that that's a completely different policy, right? And the conversation that we had with the Library Advisory Board when this topic came up was that they are interested in learning more about that process. And that's a process that we plan on undertaking. So as an example, the next Library Advisory Board meeting, regular meeting scheduled for November, obviously depending on what happens with appointments, I mentioned to the mayor this morning, we'd obviously go through an onboarding process. And we would start an educational component to that, right? The same that we did with the collection development policy, meaning that the first step is hearing from library staff on how they do that now, right? What's that process? Going through a legal review so that Allison has an opportunity to address with you in the Library Advisory Board any potential legal implications of that, because there are some, right? and then entertain a conversation about, well, how do you define what you want to do and how you want to write it in a policy, right? And so specific to the absence of age appropriateness or a rating system, this policy doesn't really have a place to do that for placement of books once they come in. So, and to Dana's point, there is no rating system. So if the expectation is that we use a rating system, we'd have to create our own, or reference, you know, third-party rating systems that might exist. So,
Well, with as much commotion as there's going on nationwide, I would think somebody's going to come up with some kind of rating system. There's too many people out there that are against, you know, this type of books, or, you know, for them to even want to get rid of the Bible and, you know, other books that we read as young adults, that just, you know, somebody's going to have to pick up that ball and run with it. I'm not saying we do, but I think the time is coming.
Yep. Okay,
any other questions or comments on the board meeting?
I was not able to attend the meeting, but I really want to thank everybody that did and for all of the hard work that's been done by our staff, by you, by the Library Advisory Board.
I appreciate that.
It's an emotional topic, but there's a lot of people that have put in a lot of work, and I appreciate it.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
all right.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Garza. Next item that I had was, we're going to move item E1, which was the appointments to the Library Advisory Board, up to the slot right after citizens communication and before items with public hearings. Yep. Okay. Anybody else have anything this evening from council?
I just have one thing. On Navarro, after they put in the mediums, people are still making U-turns on Navarro. I almost had an accident coming up here. And I pointed to the lady, but I know she didn't even look up there. The sign is too small to me.
Where?
On, right in front of HEB, she made a U-turn right there, and I was trying to turn right. She made a U-turn right there on Navarro. And I know you can't, but she did.
You can.
No, you
Oh,
can't.
you
It's allowed.
It's allowed.
Yeah.
I turned around and I looked at the sign, had the little U with the X on it.
Well, we'll look into that.
Yeah, just check all the intersections. I know I
Okay.
did one, but there's intersections that you can't do U-turns on Navarro.
Okay.
Not Navarro, Rio Grande.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Rio Grande.
All right. Well, that changes everything.
Yes,
Now I get it.
okay, I'm sorry. I was rushing to beat the train.
Too many medians.
I was like, man, I've been doing it wrong.
Well, you can do it with your big truck, I couldn't do it with my little car.
Okay.
Hey, that
Well,
reminds me, one
yeah,
other
we'll look at
shout
that.
out to Jack in the Box there on Rio Grande. They put up a fence to try and dissuade people from jaywalking across to
Yeah.
HEB on Rio Grande. But now they've busted out 3 fence pickets behind TDECU to crawl through instead of walking the extra 30 yards. So it's frustrating.
They said they were gonna do it.
But thank you, Jack in the Box. Okay, citizens communication. Let's start with Ms. Kim Pickens.
Good evening, council. Hope you're having a good day. I just wanted to say that I look forward to the potential of being appointed back to the library board after having served on it for 8 years. So I look forward to the potential of bringing my experience back to the board. And so, like I said, I just want to appreciate it for something that, from a place that's near and dear to my heart. I've been going there since 1974. It's one of my favorite places in the world. It's where I've raised my kiddos in public library. So like I said, I appreciate your thoughtful consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Pickens, and thank you for the interest in the board. Ms. Jill Blucher?
It's okay, I can't say it either.
I can't get mine right either, so that's all right.
I also want to say that I hope my application to the library board will be accepted so that I can help support the important work the library and its staff does. Libraries have been a staple of my life as long as I can remember. They fueled my imagination and love of learning as a child and helped to foster that in my own children. We spent hours every week finding new worlds and activities, joined story times, and even met some of their childhood heroes like Clifford the Big Red Dog. This free, social, and educational resource was invaluable to us as a financially challenged, growing family. And as a college student studying to become a teacher, I learned how important it is for little ones to have access to books. When caregivers read to children, their chances of success as adults increases dramatically. I was able to put legs to this when I created the United Way of the Crossroads Tiny Library Program and stocked those shelves in area daycares with the help of our library. Through my work with the United Way's Equity Challenges and service on the Be Well Steering Committee, the Family First Committee, and countless boards, I have come to understand all of the other programs people access at the library. Things that many of us take for granted, like Wi-Fi, printing, translation, help with tax and scholarships forms, and of course, social outlets. You may not know this, but Andrew Carnegie founded the public library as a place where people of lower classes and limited means could access information and lift themselves from poverty. VPL is and should always be a place where all people are represented and welcomed. I hope you will appoint me to the library board so that I can use my experience to support that work and help to continue it. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your interest in the library board. Ms. Catherine Olson.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Mayor, I was encouraged by your attendance at the last library board meeting. Thank you for that. A consistent theme for the council meetings and the library board meetings from the citizenry has been protect the children. You may have noticed, Mayor, as did I, that the subject of children never came up for the duration of the meeting after the citizens shared their thoughts. Of the citizens who spoke, I found most shocking those who said they are happy with things the way they are. I am convinced I could shock them into a different opinion in a matter of minutes by escorting them around the children's section of the library. For those of us who have taken a really close look at some of these children's books and have found them horrendous, we find ourselves stuck in this revolving door effort, trying to find a way to effect change. For that reason, I am asking that you consider me for a position on the library board, along with others who hope to make a difference. Some of the ideas that I have that I think could make a difference is for the board to actually have a hands-on look at books method. There's a lot of potential for good and harm with what comes into the library. Who previews them and why so many? It's my understanding that as many as 3,000 children's books come into the library annually. That's a lot. Here's a fun fact. Of the 40 books taken under review, after concern was expressed about the content, 0 were removed. I do appreciate the addition of the books recommended, but I don't think any of the books that we found offensive were actually removed. To me, that is a problem. And you know, that makes citizens feel like an unhappy woman in an unhappy marriage, unseen and unheard. It's a problem. I feel like the members of our community need us to do better, better than having filthy sexually charged materials in our children's portion of the library for the unsuspecting children's eyes to see. It's really unspeakable, and yet their eyes are seeing things that they cannot unsee. Lastly, one need that I think needs to change with the library board is for the voting to be anonymous. For goodness sakes, to have to call out your vote with every eagle eye in the room daring you to disagree. I just think that that would be a positive change so that people could actually express what they think and how they feel. I am grateful for the libraries adding the books to the collections, but I think there are some timeless books that should remain always, that are never outdated. Biographies, autobiographies, books about our leaders in our country's history. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Olson. Thank you for your interest. Ms. Jill Buchanan.
Hello, I've been rewriting what I wrote. So I think I kind of know all of you guys to some degree. My name is Jewel Buchanan. It was suggested to me that I should come and introduce myself to you guys and let you know of my desire to return to the library board. Like Kim Pickens, I served on the library board, I guess when my sons were in high school and junior high, and then I left the board so that I could go back to being a librarian here in VISD to fill a spot that hadn't been filled. I know that you have a big stack of all of these people who have applied, but I thought I would run down really quickly my qualifications. I graduated from college in 1988 with a degree in early childhood education. I'm certified to teach ESL and special ed in all areas as well. And then in 1993, I was certified in library science and became a librarian, an elementary librarian in Edna. I was librarian there and then took a hiatus to be a stay-at-home mom. We moved here and I got a job helping at Roland, and then I opened the library at Shalimar. I did that for a few years, and then sons went to high school and junior high and I needed to be present again. Did that, and then I went back to work at Roland. And in between all that, I subbed in the Cade Library, the Howell Library, and the West Library. So I kind of have a range of experience. Also, as far as the public library goes, when we lived in Edna, we rode our bicycles to the library as a family. When we moved here, we got library cards. When we go to Port Alto, we use the library at Point Comfort. I come from a family of readers, and I've raised a family of readers. I use the library now. I was just in there this week rechecking some books. And as a school librarian, I also kind of look through to see what the new books are. I'm familiar with the library layout. I know where the children's books are. I know where the juvenile books are. I know where the young adult books are. I really appreciate the way that our library is set up. It's set up so that the shelves are a height where parents can monitor their children. And I appreciate that we have a policy where parents cannot drop their children off unattended until they reach the age of 12 to 13 because we have some teen programs. And I believe in parenting. I don't let my children I didn't let them roam through the HEB eating grapes and bananas because I'm a parent. I don't like coconuts. So I'm not interested in that. When I go to the library, there are things I'm not interested in. I don't believe that all books are for all children or all people. I would have never let my children read books about Jeffrey Dahmer or Nazi Germany before it was too early for them. But I believe that as a parent, it's my call. And I love what the library and the library board is doing now with the library cards. As a librarian, I know that it's so easy to go into the system and restrict users and restrict for all of the different reasons. So I think we're moving in the right way, and I would love to be a part of the solution and get rid of the problem. So,
Right. Thank you, Ms. Buchanan. Thanks for your interest. Mr. Jim Hester.
Hello again. Thank you for the time. I want to give you a little data and stuff like that. If you look at the academic years 2019 to 20 and 2018 to 2019 for the Texas state, if you talk about the annual graduates that are college ready, it's 53.2% is average. If you look at Region 3, which we're part of, it's around 42%. If you look at the district we're in, Victoria Independent School District, it's 31.5%. If you look at the African Americans, it's an average of 18% of high school graduates. Only 18% of them are ready to go to college. If you look at the Hispanics, it's 25. If you look at the whites, it's somewhere around 47. If you look at the Asians, it's somewhere around 73%. I still want to say, hey, we need somehow in this city, including what goes on in the library, to be sure that we're doing stuff that's helping kids learn stuff that's important. I did have a chance to look at the Library Bill of Rights, which, as you probably recognize, is not the United States Bill of Rights. It's an organization, AALL, that wanted it. What was interesting to me is there was a section called Interpretation of Library Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights had 7 items. The interpretation included 28. One example of that, access to library resources and services for minors. Library policies and procedures that effectively deny minors equal and equitable access to all library resources available to other users violate the Library Bill of Rights. When there was that discussion that was going on, there was a lot of this, we're supposed to be broad, we're supposed to be open and stuff like that. I do not believe that we need obscenity and stuff like that in any of the library stuff. I'd like to go on and talk about what a library might supposed to be doing, and this is based on a United States versus the American Library Association lawsuit that was settled in June 23rd, 2003. The guy who gave it, the discussion of it, was Rehnquist, and he was a Chief Justice. He said about libraries, to help research, acquiring knowledge, or for recreation. In all these cases, the library provides material that are both needed and which meet the library standards of quality. Just as books are not furnished in order that the authors may have a wide forum in which to speak, that is, not for the benefit of the authors, but for the use of the library patron. And I believe that's very different than what the stuff was said by AALL. And at that point, I think I'm pretty much out of time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hester. Ms. Sarah Zeller?
Thank you for the time and attention you've given to our local library. My name is Sarah Zeller, and I hope you will consider selecting me to serve on the Library Advisory Board. I'm a lifelong Victorian, and I've been using the library my entire life. My interest in this topic is the result of my personal experiences at the library with my children, who are currently in elementary and middle school ages. Over the last 6 months, I've followed the conversations about the library, learned more about their policies, and the role of the Library Advisory Board. I've attended or watched meetings of the City Council and the Library Board to listen and to learn. It seems we need a balanced, sensible approach to this topic that looks for areas of agreement. We all agree the library should be stocked with various perspectives on many different topics. In addition, we want our library to be a place of learning and leisure for adults and children alike. We recognize the library serves the entire community and must consider the needs of everyone. The library has worked to create an area that's well suited for children and teens, with books at their reading level, shelves and book bins at their height, smaller furniture, and even areas to climb. This communicates to anyone who walks into the library that this is an area appropriate for certain ages. While library staff work hard to choose the correct placement for materials, we all know occasionally there will be an oversight. This is where community feedback should be extremely helpful to the library staff. There is now a restricted juvenile library cart, but this does not address the issue of placement of materials, and so this actually has the potential to increase confusion. Even if no one signs up for the restricted card, simply having it listed as an option implies to the entire community that there is something different about the materials in the areas for kids and teens. But if we don't update the selection criteria to include age appropriateness for those materials, then we have communicated something to our community that is untrue. We are misleading parents and guardians with a restricted card if there are not restrictions on the materials in that section. You have asked for very balanced and reasonable adjustments to be made in the placement and classification of some books, but the current board has not implemented your changes. I'm willing to work with others to make sensible changes that address the concerns of our community and also retain a diversity of viewpoints in our library, especially in the adult section. I think it's possible to find a balanced solution and bring peace to this issue. I believe I'm a great candidate, and I hope you will select me to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zeller. Mr. Von der Rohe.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I was going to talk about the new rating system, and I think the City Council should read those 40-something books, and they should take a vote on them And then they could give the city mayor a stamp, and he could put PG-13, rated R, rated X, and I don't know of anyone that's done that, but, and plus you'd have a free attorney that could help you, if you're not sure what to do. And I do consider the city council a minimum, at least average, above average in intelligence, so I don't know why something like that couldn't be done. Just get 4 stamps, get a X, PG-13, PG, all the controversials, books, rate them, and then take a vote on it. And if it's 4-3, there's PG-13, the mayor could do it. If it's tied, just leave it alone. And that would be something that could be done. And also animal control, they're giving out traps and they're picking up dogs. Nora from pretrial services, she took care of those dogs in those kennels because they got 9 animal abuse cases. And that's why they weren't picking up dogs as much, because they didn't have room. But I do think they're going to have to make room because there's so many stray dogs, and not all of them are stray. A lot of them are owned and stuff, and have a pack of dogs all around my house trying to get in. But I put gates, and they figured it out. They couldn't get in, But I wish someone could take care of it. And I don't see why the city council couldn't develop their own rating system, and they could do it free of charge. And most of the city council have like an IQ about 120 and stuff, so I think that could work out. If not, I could rate them if you want. I could read the books, make some stamp. I won't charge nothing. But anyway, have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Vonderow. Ms. Jill Fox.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. My father was a professor of reading education. He taught teachers how to teach children to read. He spoke often of the power of books and of reading to educate, to change lives, to alter perspectives and pathways. He spoke also of the responsibility of parents and teachers and all adults to use that power wisely to protect children with that power. I have a PhD in early childhood education, human development, and family studies. I understand how children and adults process and use the information that they read. I've been a public educator for almost 40 years, both at the elementary level and in undergraduate and graduate programs at the university level. As a conservative university professor, I've learned how to make point even when there's disagreement, to add an alternate perspective, and to stand my ground even when I'm in the minority. I hope you will let me use my knowledge and skills in service of our public library and in service of our Victoria community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. Thank you for your interest in the library board. Harley Fisk.
Good evening. All right. Lately, we've heard a lot from a group that claims to want to protect children from books. They're using the false pretense that these books are obscene, when in reality, these books are only reflecting a lifestyle that they do not want to accept. They're willing to discount all those children who need these books to help validate the life they were born into. For these kids, their sexual orientation or confusion is not a choice any more than was being born. We know that anxiety, depression, and even suicide affects more in younger people than ever before. There are multiple contributing factors that play a role in this, including COVID, social media, peer pressure, parental disconnect, and uncertainty about the future. We know that individuals in any marginalized population are more likely to suffer from these issues because of a lack of community acceptance. We've seen the joy in many groups as they are able to finally see people like them in movies, TV programs, magazines, and even commercials. Perhaps the greatest antidote to this epidemic is that parents have open and honest conversations with their children. These conversations need to address all the things that touch the lives of their kids. That means the big things as well as the little ones. If you think you can prevent your child from learning about the world, you are doomed to failure. Maybe this works if you homeschool, have no phone or TV, and keep them in a house without access to friends. Wait, that is not a child, that is a prisoner. Your child probably knows more than you can imagine about the LGBTQ community, assuming they are not a prisoner in their own home. Information is probably available on their phone and through their peers. Reading about someone else's lifestyle does not make them want to adopt that lifestyle if it is not for them. People are born into the LGBTQ spectrum. It's not a club that you choose to join. So yes, I am in support of the library continuing to do what they have been educated to do, to support the entire community and the needs of all its citizens. People sometimes ask why I get up here to defend the library. Of course, it is the right thing to do, but perhaps revising an old saying might help explain it. First, they came for the gays, but I was not gay, so I did not speak out. Next, they came for the librarians, but I was not a librarian, so I did not speak out. Then they came for me, and I hope there was someone to speak for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisk. Sharon Stubblefield.
Good evening, Mayor Bachnight and council members. I come before you this evening to address the library book issue. For over 50 years as an RN and a PhD licensed counselor, I have worked with children and their families in a number of settings. I believe we would say that we are a friendly and welcoming community with a diverse population. However, it seems we are becoming less and less inclusive. It is important to not marginalize others who may not have the same religious beliefs, sexual orientation, or cultural values that we have. I believe your task is to govern and set policy for all in our community. I think there's much that could be said about the books, but I would like to make a few points. Pedophilia and homosexuality are not the same thing. Homosexuality does not lead to pedophilia. Reading a book or books does not cause homosexuality or transgender identity issues. Recently, a person who is a church-going Christian and a Republican wrote a letter to the editor about the book controversy. She wrote that these books are a lifeline to young people struggling with their identity while often being bullied and frequently contemplating suicide. She felt these books would have benefited her two gay brothers when they were growing up. She expressed gratitude that they are available today. The library is for all of us to enjoy. If these and other books were not available, and I've heard it said, well, parents could buy the books if they want their children to read them. If you're poor, you're not able to do that. I do support the library, the tiered library card. I want what is helpful for all of us, heterosexual, homosexual, transgender, Christians, Jews, Muslims, and non-believers. I appreciate the difficult task before you as you grapple with these and many other issues. I also would like to commend Dana and her library staff for the wonderful work they do, often these days under challenging circumstances. I wish you and our community the very best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Stubblefield. Suzanne Lebrec.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm here representing Barbara David, And Barbara had to be out of town, but she felt it was so important. She asked me to come and read her remarks. So on behalf of Barbara David, this is what she says. Since August 2021, I have been a member of the Victoria Library Advisory Board, serving a one-year term. I am asking for reappointment to the Victoria Library Advisory Board. I am well qualified as I have already served for 1 year, and in addition, I was also a member of the San Marcos, Texas Library Board for 4 years. I understand the responsibilities as well as the complexities of being on this board. As a current board member, I have taken the opportunity to listen to other residents about the issues we are presently facing. Fortunately, I have been able to hear differing opinions, and I understand the concerns on many sides. Being able to hear differing opinions and different issues, I believe I can offer thoughtful, creative, and reasonable solutions. On behalf of Barbara, thank you for considering me for another term on the Victoria Library Advisory Board. Sincerely, Barbara David.
Thank you.
But I'm really Suzanne.
Yes, thank you, Ms. LeBrecq. It's very nice of you to come in here and speak for her, and we're appreciative of her interest in remaining on the board. Ms. Prima Ranjan.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and members of the City's Council. I want to thank you for the opportunity of being considered for a seat on the Victoria Library Advisory Board. I feel privileged at the opportunity of serving this community should I get elected. I know that libraries are important in all cities because they facilitate learning, literacy, and education. According to Socrates and Plato, the aim of education is to attain knowledge. To them, the attainment of knowledge was necessary both for the interests of the individual and the society. Hence, it was virtue by itself. I pray I can bring my own set of skills and values to the library board, as well as any ideas to enhance the pursuit of excellent books. A little bit about my background. I have a degree in history and political science and education. Currently, I'm a real estate broker in town and enjoy being an active part of this community. I'm a mother and a grandmother. I have 2 children. My son is a federal judge in Pennsylvania, and my daughter is a sales and marketing executive in Salesforce. Being an avid reader, I encourage my children in the pursuit of knowledge and the development of moral character. Talking about children, I feel every book a child picks up from the library should have a literary value and lead to the moral development of good character. I hope to do my best for the betterment of this community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thanks for your interest in the library board. Ms. Gay Patek.
Greetings, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. My name is Gay Patek, and our library can be a great resource to our community. I believe there are a lot of things that our library does well. Who doesn't like building a gingerbread house at Christmas time with your children or grandchildren? I do have concerns that I have voiced more than a few times over the past 4 months, and actually over the past year, but I won't reiterate them all here. My husband and I have raised 3 children, and we have a lot of grandchildren. Now that I'm older, I understand more clearly what life is all about, and I've come to realize that life is very short. We want our grandchildren and all children to have a solid foundation in reading, writing, and arithmetic, and a solid foundation in the truth, just like we were able to give to our children. Truth is what is real, and feelings are different than truths. Feelings change, and sometimes they even trick us and mislead us. Knowing truth is important. Right and wrong are truths, not feelings, and they are the same for everyone. Our Creator is the source of the rules for right and wrong, and they come from His character. There is no case law that I could find that says you must have sexual material in the children's or teen section of our library. Right now, we are making a choice as a community to have sexually inappropriate materials in these sections. This is a shame because there are a lot of treasures in the library, and children should be able to discover them on their own. That's an important part of their educational development, and I want to be a part of making sure we have age and content appropriate books for our children to discover. I ask for your vote to be placed on the Library Advisory Board. I am reasonable, I'm thoughtful of others, I'm controlled and measured. I spend time reading and researching today's issues. I'm committed, and I believe that you've seen that in me over the last 4 months. I'm a hard worker. I listen to others even when we have differing views, and I do my best to be respectful. I'm a resource person, and I have ideas to bring to the table to solve this issue. My mom was a librarian for many years, and she told me it's our job to provide good books for children. I've also set up a small private school library, so I have experience in that, purchasing and placing books in the library. I hope I can count on your vote. Thank you for all your time and effort that you have given in to helping protect the innocence of children with age and content appropriate books purchased with our taxpayer dollars. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Botek, and thank you for your interest in the library board. Last card we have is Ms. Samantha Bell.
Hello, I am also here to thank you for my consideration for the Library Advisory Board. I am relatively new to Victoria. I've only been here for 11 years, but I went and got a library card almost immediately upon arriving in town because I am a very avid reader, and I have been wowed by our library ever since I got here. I mean, the number of activities, everything. When my son turned 3, he got his first library card, and since we live in downtown, one of our favorite activities on nice weather days is to walk to the library, get books, and then go sit in the gazebo and read. So we are very avid readers. I love the app more than anything else. I'm an audiobook person. I go through about 70 a year. So I've used the library for so many things that I really want to give back. I want to be a part of such a dynamic and really great organization. I know there's a lot of controversy with the books right now, but the library is more than that. I think it's amazing that so much consideration is being given to everybody's concerns, that so much listening is happening, that's just amazing that the community is willing to discuss this and to go so in depth. But I want to be a part of the library board for more than just the book selection, because there is a lot more to it. There are arts events, there's the music events. Last year they hosted a Choose Your Own Adventure walk downtown that was amazing. My son and I did it multiple times. We spent hours out there. There is so much more to our library than just the controversial books right now, and I want to be a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. All right, that ends the citizens communication portion of the meeting. And as promised, we're going to move item E1 up to this point in the agenda.
Item E1 is a resolution to appoint or reappoint up to 3 members to the Victoria Public Library Advisory Board.
Thank you.
And April will walk through the procedure.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Hilbrick.
Good evening, Council. The resolution before you tonight, before we go through the voting procedures, I'm going to go a little bit of a presentation.
An hour.
Yes. The resolution before you tonight will appoint 3 members to the Library Advisory Board. There's different focus areas for the Library Advisory Board. They're the liaison between the community, governing bodies, and library management. They provide feedback to library management in areas of planning and library goals, and they approve and set policies related to library operation, advocate for the library budget and monetary support, advocate and support legislative initiatives concerning the library, and perform other duties and functions as delegated by the city and county. So the board is composed of 11 members. This is different than many of the other boards that we appoint to, because there are appointees, 4 appointees from the county, 4 from the city, and then there are other 1 joint appointee from the city and the county, 1 representative from the Friends of the Library, and 1 representative from the Bronte Club.
2 from the Bronte.
It's actually 1.
Oh.
They split the spot. That's correct. They split the spots depending on who can attend the meeting. So that really is One vote,
So it's just one vote,
One vote.
even though both attend the meeting?
yes.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Sure. And so the appointments are for 3 years at a time. So the appointments that we're considering tonight, we have 2 appointments that are city positions with terms ending in August of 2025. Those are full-term positions. And then we have 1 appointment, which is the jointly appointed city-county position, and it's filling an unexpired term ending in October of 2023. And we have 15 applicants, Catherine Olson, Sarah Zeller, Samantha Bell, Prima Ranjan, Leslie Sipe, Kimberly Pickens, Kevin Smith, Catherine Kopecki-Schraper, Jill Blucher, Joel Buchanan, Gay Patek, Dr. Heather Parra, Barbara David, Jill Fox, and Adam Daughtry. So many of them spoke here tonight. They were all encouraged to come and speak before you tonight, but it was not a requirement. So last week, once we learned about the additional joint city-county position becoming available, I made a call to every single one of the applicants, explained the situation to them, and explained that city-county appointment and how the term would be a partial term and that the person must also be appointed by the county. So 9 of the 15 applicants agreed to be considered for that position, and their names are here: Samantha Bell, Prima Ranjan, Leslie Sipe, Catherine Pickens, Jill Blucher, Gay Patek, Dr. Heather Parra, Jill Fox, and Adam Daughtry. So tonight, we're going to vote just a little bit differently. So first of all, it's going to be electronically, and James will explain a little bit to that point about you in a second, but I'm going to first explain the rounds. So the first round, we're going to ask that you vote for at least 3, but no more than 8 of the 15 applicants. Only the top applicants will advance to the next round, and that's going to be the top 8 at most. And if needed, the council will vote on ties between the applicants before moving on to the vote in the next round. Please note that if an applicant receives 4 votes, the applicant will automatically be selected to be appointed to the city appointed spots unless we have more than 2, in which case we would have to again vote. So if you'll bear with us, all of the votes will be recorded, so they will be available in my office with your names attached because we cannot vote by secret ballot. So James, do you want to explain the voting procedure?
Certainly. I've already explained to everyone except Councilmember Solis, but if you look at your browser, there's a tab that has your district on there. And of course, when you click on that tab, you have a list of the candidates. What we ask you to do is place an X beside the list of your candidate. And then please make sure that when you make your final selection, that you click out of the last cell that you've clicked in. I will tabulate it. I will remove the X's, and after I've recorded the vote, and I'll also remove the candidates. So all you have to do is just put your X's in the slots.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I know you say some of them have either city or county. When we vote the first time, are we voting only for city?
When we vote, we are voting for all 3 positions. It's just going to be incrementally done in rounds so that we hopefully end up with 3 people at the end. And at that time, we can decide between those 3 who would receive the 2 city spots and the county spot, the city-county spot. So you're voting for all 3 positions in each round.
And to be clear, in this first round, we do ask that you select a minimum of 3, no more than 8. So if you only feel comfortable selecting 3, select 3, or if only feel comfortable selecting 4. We don't want you to feel forced to pick 8 if you don't feel comfortable picking 8, right? And as James said, he'll get the results on his end, and he'll update the Excel accordingly.
At this time, if you'll please vote.
Yeah, or I'm not sure if any discussion that you may want to have beforehand.
Yes.
The only discussion I had is thank you to the 15 members. I say this to every board that we do. This one's especially impressive that we have 15 members because we know that there's a controversial topic being discussed in the community, and there's 15 community members that are willing to step up and participate, and I think that is phenomenal. I'm going to thank you. And I'm wondering, when do we get to do our secret votes like they want to? It is very, very difficult, I realize, on the library board to sit there and discuss items like this, and to have all your thoughts out there. I hope and pray that everybody's being respectful to you. You deserve nothing less than respect for serving on the board and for stepping up and trying to be appointed to the board. Thank you again for everybody. All right, y'all ready? Let's vote. You don't need a capital X, do you, James?
Do we exit the session? Do we exit the session at the end of our vote?
No, just basically just click. I would suggest that you, when you're through, just put your mouse cursor on the one cell that says votes. That's a great place to just land that.
Wait a minute, when I do that, have I already cast my ballot?
Yeah, just by clicking out of the cells, yeah.
It immediately casts, yes.
And
but you
it'll-
have to be clicked out.
It'll immediately tabulate, and James has the summary, and we'll go through that. Has everyone,
Everyone voted?
No.
No.
okay. Take
many
your time,
choices.
no rush.
Sure, no problem.
We do have Jeopardy music queued. So we'll-
Just put the cursor on votes?
You have to put an X in the box?
No, once we finish.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
just move your cursor up there, yes.
You just go to
So
the-
that it's clicked out of, as long as you're clicked out of the box that you last voted on, because that's what actually sends it to the tabulation. Okay, is everyone ready now? Okay, looks like it'll be just a moment.
Like it's in school, pencils down.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, nobody got 4.
Uh-oh.
But we do have 7 candidates with 3 and 1 with 2. The rest either had none or 1. So those 8 people will move forward to the next round. So James is going to reset your card so that only the 8 people that had the top vote, so basically cut in half. will
Do
move
do we verbalize those 8 or no? Procedurally, I don't know if we just wait until the end or if we verbalize who the 8 are.
Usually when we do a
We
vote,
verbalize.
yeah,
Okay.
they just
Okay.
verbalize the ones moving forward or, but yeah, I would wait.
Okay.
And then my X's haven't disappeared. Are they going to disappear or do I go to the
They
next
will.
column?
Yeah, James is still
Got it.
updating it.
He's got to take the time to save that vote so that we have it, the ballot saved.
Mark, you have your hands up. No.
So we need the 8, the top 8.
What happened to my 8? I lost 8. I just lost 8. Select these again. Whoops.
Sorry for the delay. I do have paper ballots.
Record, we can do it again.
I came prepared.
I'm not sure what happened.
Do we need to redo it?
I'm resetting it right now. Everything's there.
He has the vote.
Okay, so here's what we had. So we had.
Okay. If we need to go to paper, then let's just go to paper. I don't want to go through this again.
It's pretty neat, though. My votes came back the way that I cast them. It didn't change anything.
Yeah.
So it seems to be working.
You can't change your mind, by the way. So you have to
I see
do
that.
the exact, you have to put on paper the same thing that you did.
All right, we're back to round one, right?
Round one,
Yeah.
same rules apply.
You're welcome.
It's all right. You know, I think it's a good idea. We'll get some more test time with it.
We'll have to vote on other things. Fine. I'm not dead.
Okay, there you go. I hope I did it right.
I guess so. We're not gonna vote.
We're not gonna use this.
Hmm?
They said we're not gonna use this. So we can get out of it. It's a good thought. The thought was good.
Yes.
What?
I did like that this spreadsheet has city, county.
When we talked about it, it was just because if we all voted for 15, you know, for the top 3 out of 15, I don't think we'd ever get there. I mean, we would eventually
we'd
get
never
there,
get
but there'd be all these ties we'd have to get through. We got 12, you know, 6 of them that have 1 vote, we gotta decide.
Okay, so after this vote, we do have 2 individuals that ended up with 4 votes. So as the rules remain the same, those two people will automatically move forward because that's the majority vote. So those 2 are Sarah Zeller and Prima Rajan. So now we need to vote. The next, we had 3 individuals that ended up with 3 votes. They would be the next 3. So y'all want to just vote between those 3 for the city county spot? Okay. So those,
Well, we need to see, we
No,
need to see
who it is.
Who they are. Who are those 3?
We need all,
the 3 are Jill Buchanan, Gay Patek, and Barbara David.
Y'all got 3.
Yes.
So we pick,
could you say them again? How many did we vote for?
We have 3 of them.
3, and
We
we have
need what? We have 1 slot
1
open.
slot. So it's
How many
Jill
votes do we
Buchanan, Gay Patek, and Barbara
1?
David.
One person on ballot 2.
Yes.
We'll vote for out of Mrs. Buchanan, Mrs. Patek, and Mrs. David.
David, so 10, 11, and 13 on your ballot.
Oh, I forgot we had that. I was looking for light on.
Sorry, I messed it up. I circled the two that were already approved, so I just wrote already approved. and then-
Okay. So of the three, of Joe Buchanan, Gay Patek, and Barbara David, the most votes went to Gay Patek. And I believe she is on the list of one of the people willing to accept the city-county position if the county appoints her as well. So that would make our resolution to have the Sarah Zeller and Prima Ranjan listed as the two city appointees and Ms. Gay Patek listed as the city-county appointee.
Anybody have any issue with that? Go ahead.
Is it Ms. Ranjan also on the list for?
It's either between Ms. Patek or
Yeah.
Ms. Ranjan, either one
Yeah.
for city-county.
But,
You could vote again if
yeah, I
that's
mean,
what
you could
so
change it if
choose.
you want, but our intent was the person with the most votes would get the city slot because that person doesn't have to go in front of the county.
And there it's a longer term.
Okay, and that makes sense. I just wanted to double check because.
Yeah,
Okay. Is everyone okay?
okay.
Yep, so we'll need a motion with Mrs. Ellers and Ms. Ranjan's name for the city appointees and have Mrs. Patek as the city-county appointee.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Thank you again to everybody that applied. Remember, there are other boards if you still wish to continue to serve. There's plenty of opportunities throughout the year. There's no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Thank y'all. Okay, we're gonna switch back, Ms. Hilbert.
Public hearings is up.
Yes, to public hearings, item C1.
Item C1 is an ordinance to amend section 24-51 to add code enforcement abatement fees.
All right, at this time, we have a little short presentation.
I'm just here for questions. As you know, we are hiring an abatement crew, and so Chapter 10 already allows us to pass on abatement costs to property owners. And so now that we are hiring an abatement crew, this ordinance sets what the cost of that abatement crew is.
I just have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What was the fee before, what are we changing from to this hourly rate?
So we would pass on the direct cost of the contract that we paid the contractors. So that varies depending on the job. So generally, $100 to $200 depending on, the size of the job. But we would pass on directly the exact amount that we paid the contractor that did the abatement in addition to the administrative fees. So now our crews are going to be doing the abatement. And so we tried to make it comparable to what those contractors are charging. And that's where we came up with the $60 and the $75 for the junk. In addition to kind of making it comparable, we looked at our actual cost, and this does capture the actual salary cost plus some of the cost for materials or equipment.
Equipment, gas,
Yeah.
oil, all that stuff. Okay. At this time, we'll open up the public hearing for item C1. Anybody wishing to speak for or against or on this item specifically, please step forward. Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing and entertain any motions.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve item C1. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item C2.
Item C2 is an ordinance to amend section 24-241 of the city code pertaining to additional garbage cart and recycling cart fees.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I do have a real short presentation I'll go through. And it's just a little bit of background of kind of where we started and where we're at. So just a little bit of history. Prior to 2008, we had rear load pickup twice a week, and we picked up everything with those trucks. Seems a little loud. Just me. Now it's too quiet. And then in June of 2008, we started the automated system, and the rate was $13.75. Prior to 2008, the rate was $13.75. And we added the additional cards. So when we delivered cards, we gave people a chance. You could sign up ahead of time. We'd drop 2 carts at your house instead of 1, but there was a fee of $5 for that additional card. So here we are in 2022. The current rate is still $13.75, and the extra cart rate is still $5. So this has caused some issues for us. So since 2008, and everybody's aware of this, but I'll run through them. We've had increase in fuel cost, disposal cost. The cart cost has gone up. They were about $45 when we started buying them. Now they're over $60 a piece. Route time. You know, we've done everything we can for all these years, for almost 15 years, to improve our productivity to take in all these extra carts, 5,000 of them plus. And we've been able to do that, but we're getting at the point now where we're going to have to make some changes and add some routes, as we discussed during our budget session. And then personnel costs have increased quite a bit over the last 15 years. And so just touching base back going through, June 1st, 2008, $5 a cart for an additional cart. We're proposing a fee increase of $1.50. This is for garbage and recycle additional carts. We're doing this. This is not going to apply to every single garbage customer we have in town. Their rate will still stay $13.75. Only people with additional carts will receive the extra charge of $1.50 per additional cart. Yes, Ms. Elise, we did what we could.
I know that's going to affect me, that's why I went.
So starting October 1, 2020, if council approves, the new rate will go to $6.50. And the current garbage rate, though, for everyone else who doesn't have a cart, and that's very important, stays at $13.75. Now, we're going to take, I'm going to be bringing some increases to you from the landfill, from the compost facility in October. And so we knew these were coming, but we're hoping that we can take 2023 with these additions that we made to the carts to look through this, and then we'll know, better where we're at with these increases, because keep in mind that, those are based on CPI. CPI goes up, CPI goes down, but we think we'll be okay with this $1.50 additional for right now. And I'll answer any questions.
Daryl.
Yes.
Can you explain the demand on the system when you have more than just one cart, which is including $13.75, and what's this doing to a whole operation?
Yes, sir. So when we set up this operation, we set up to handle the carts that we had. Anytime we add an additional cart, it adds about 16 to 20 seconds, okay, per additional cart, per route, per day. Now, that also adds landfill time, because for every additional cart we pick up, we'll load out sooner on those routes, which adds into more landfill trips, more fuel, more maintenance on vehicles, more time for the drivers. And so all that kind of builds up. And we've been able to absorb that through productivity, but we've gotten to the point now where I can't absorb anymore. And so what we're doing is we're taking what has become the burden to our system, which is all the extra carts, and we're putting the increase where that burden is, which is on the extra carts, not on our everyday customers who may only have one cart. They're still paying the same thing they were paying when we started. The burden that we've taken on is being passed back to where the burden comes from, which is those extra carts.
The total number of clients that we have that are just paying the $13.75, percentage-wise, what is the ones that are having the 1375 plus? Is that more?
So we have about 5,000 additional carts. Actually, it's a little more than that when you include the recycle carts. But you can't say that that's 20% or anything like that because some houses have up to 4 additional carts.
Oh,
And so that's a really hard number for me to give you. If I had to just take a guess, which I really don't want to, it would not be that huge of a number because there are multiple carts or multiple customers with multiple carts, not just one additional cart.
Okay, I understand.
How many total regular trash carts are out?
About 21,000 regular customers on a monthly basis, and that
Not
fluctuates up and
customers,
down.
carts.
Oh, so we're at
Cans, trash cans. Trash
about
carts.
26,000, 27,000,
Okay.
somewhere around there.
29,000.
Is that
Oh,
both,
well, yeah.
both recycle and regular, or is that just one round? The
I'm
29?
sorry.
Total cart. You can talk into the mic.
Okay, because I'm not.
Is it on?
Which usually I am. Your garbage, your extra cart, and the recycling extra cart, you're looking at about close to 29,000 carts
right.
in operation on a given time. On your garbage cart, within the 1375, you got about 20 to 21. Okay?
And that's just your regular customers. So actually, on your regular customers with your recycling too, you'd actually have about 42,000 a month. But that's separate routes. Yep. Because your recycling's picked up every other week while your garbage is picked up every week. And your participation rate is different between the two.
Well, I'm going to tell you, thank you for focusing on productivity so much over the years. It's amazing when you show that graphic that, you know, even prior to 2008, we were at 1375. So I commend you for the effort you've made in the department, Mr. Lesak. It's been great. What I'm hearing from you is don't be surprised if we have to make some adjustments next year. I would expect that there would need to be.
There may need to be, but CPI is a fickle thing, especially right in the world we live in today. It could go up, it could go down. And fuel costs we've already seen drop a little bit, but yes, I would not be surprised. And the credit goes to the men and women who are out there driving those trucks.
Yeah. I'd like to add one more thing, Darrell. I think it's important is that our total volume over the past year, especially in the COVID, it went rocket sky.
Right.
We haven't got back to the norm on an annual basis on the waste. We're getting down, but hopefully another year, maybe that thing will come down and then maybe we don't have much of an issue. But that's still dangling out there. That total volume still is an issue.
And we're seeing more people stay at home.
And eating home.
Even though, and so that takes that trash out of those restaurants, out of those businesses and puts it in our cans.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Well, they definitely take less than 20 seconds in front of my house, because I've been out there trying to get the can out there, and they're pretty quick.
That's because they never know where I'm hiding watching.
Okay. Any further questions for Mr. Lesak? All right. At this time, we'll entertain any motion for item C2.
So moved.
Second. Did you do the?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're set at a public hearing. Thank you,
Oh.
Mr. Crocker. Anybody wishing to speak on item C2, please step forward. No one came forward. We'll close the public hearing, and now you'll restate your motion.
I move we approve item C2.
Thank you.
Second.
And a motion and a second to approve item C2. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Great. Consent agenda.
Thank you.
Item D1 is the adoption of minutes of the regular meeting on September 6, 2022. Item D2 is a resolution approving a selective traffic enforcement program or the STEP comprehensive grant from the Texas Department of Transportation in the amount of $14,856.90, which requires a financial participation from the city in the amount of $3,053.30. Item D3 is a resolution approving an amendment to the professional services agreement with Freese & Nichols for preliminary design services for De Leon Plaza Expansion Project Phase 1 in the amount of $10,600 $500 for a total of $180,600. Item D4 is a resolution awarding an annual supply contract to Colorado Materials LTD of Nursery, Texas for hot mix asphaltic concrete type D in the amount of $138,000 and rejecting the hot mix cold laid asphaltic concrete proposal. Item D5 is a resolution awarding an annual supply contract for liquid chlorine to Brentag Southwest Incorporated of Lancaster, Texas for their low proposal of $348,085. Item D6 is a resolution rejecting the competitive sealed proposal for an annual supply contract for limestone base to Colorado Materials LTD of Nursery, Texas. Item D7 is a resolution awarding a contract to Third Coast Services LLC for the Moody and Water Signal Pole and Mast Arm Replacement Project for their competitive sealed proposal in the amount of $154,356.
I'll move for approval of items D1 through 7 on the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Thank you. Item E2.
Item E2 is a resolution awarding awarding a renewal agreement on the 800 megahertz radio system support and maintenance with Motorola Solutions for $808,435.57.
Thank you, council. This is just simply a renewal of what we've done for the last multiple years. It is Motorola. It is renewed every 2 years. This represents a 2% increase over our last year contract. It does allow us to stay current with our latest version, our software version. Those software upgrades occur every 2 years, and then occasionally, depending on what it requires, if that software requires hardware refreshes, they will refresh our hardware. For instance, our desktops that we use at 911 dispatch for that, which was replaced last year, will be probably replaced in the next 4 years. This is a Hgic cooperative contract that we purchased off of. Just found another. So basically, this is just a breakdown of what on this contract is how it's being broken down. So the county pays roughly 46.97, almost 47% of the contract. Our outside agencies pay roughly 3.6%, and then the city, of course, picks up the majority of it at almost 49.41%. And that is my.
Thank you, Mr. Foote.
You're welcome.
I had a question on that graph.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Foote. Mr. De La Garza has a
What was the
question.
determining factor on the percentage that the county paid compared to city?
Certainly. So basically what we do, and we base that not only on the maintenance contract, but also on the reoccurring that there is one stipulation, I'm sorry I did not bring that up, but in addition to this, the outside agencies also pay a reoccurring per radio of $25 per radio per month. So what that is based upon the number of radios we have on the system. We currently have approximately almost 1,600 radios, and so out of that, that's based upon the percentage. So we have the larger percentage of radios that are on the system right now.
Thank you.
Okay.
And this is in line with how we're moving forward with other stuff. All right.
I move that we accept as read. E2?
E2, yes, ma'am.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second to approve item E2.
I have a
Mr. Lofgren?
I have a question. Is Motorola the only vendor that supplies? Because
There are other vendors that supply a P25 radio system. However, our system is a Motorola system. And if we were to go to another system, that means taking everything out and replacing it.
thank you.
Just curious, what's that cost?
He can bring that next year.
I'm just going to throw, 8 million, 10 million.
Okay, all right.
Somewhere around there.
Motorola it is.
They have us on the hook.
Yeah. Okay. Great, thank you. Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving item E2, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item E3.
Item E3 is a resolution approving a cooperative purchasing contract for various computers, software peripherals, and related equipment in the amount of $994,355.
Okay, again, this is our cooperative purchases, and this is just listing some of the cooperative purchases that we do use frequently. Texas DRR, TIPS, the buy board, GSA, and then, of course, Omnia. The breakdown, the majority of our purchases are through Texas DR. Over 80% of those purchases are done through those Texas DR contracts. We do review those, and one of the reasons why this number is a little bit lower than it was last year was that one of our major contracts, we found that while we could get it through a cooperative contract, it was actually cheaper to purchase it directly from the vendor, and so that reduction was placed off of there. So we are reviewing those each of those purchases and make sure that that is still the best deal. The majority, again, is following, again, maintenance. Software maintenance is our largest purchases that we may have. New equipment is only 4%. Replacement equipment is 25%. New software is 4%. And the favorite one is all falling in IT. So that roughly works out to be about 69% of the maintenance the costs on those purchases are in IT on that. And again, I'll remind council that we are a cost center, that a lot of these maintenance agreements are passed on to the other departments. And that was it. I haven't any questions.
It's amazing how much it costs for maintenance. All right. Is there any further questions for Mr. Foote? No. Any motions?
I move we adopt this item.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to adopt item E3. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank
E4.
you.
Item E4 is a resolution awarding the high service water connection project to J&R Contracting Services Incorporated of Victoria, Texas for the low proposal amount of $462,733.
Good evening. I just want to know that James won on that one. He's beat me twice. This is a high service water connection. It's a CIP project that we've had in the works for a while. It's part of the 2018 Water Master Plan. It's a fairly small project. It's part of a larger concept to continue to integrate the north pressure plains and the south pressure plains. It's connecting a 16-inch water main with a 24-inch main right there between, and the picture is pretty, it's a picture of the Big Ed's Automotive is to the north and the sign place is to the south. So it's going across Ed Claysel's property. And it's a 16-inch connecting to a 24 and then over to the 12. And it'll provide redundant water service for the north pressure plane if there is a main break between Mockingbird and Loop 463, and of course to help them during emergency should we have another super hard freeze. Proposed contractor is J&R Contracting Services. Projected cost is $462,733. Start in January, complete December of 2023.
Yeah, there's something wrong there.
Yeah, we're going backwards. And I do want to say our thanks to Ed Claysel and James Easterling, who really worked with us on giving us those easements for that water line. It was very cordial and very simple. And I'll entertain any questions.
I have a question. Okay, the measurements in the pipes, can you go through that sequence again?
Okay, the 24-inch diameter water line is there on the left, and that's the one that goes from the surface water plant all the way up to past Loop 463, up to the water tower.
Okay.
We're gonna tap into that line with a 16-inch main and go around through Mr. Claysel's property and then tie into the existing 12-inch main with a 12-inch by 16-inch T. So it's just basically connecting that 12-inch water main on Main Street that's part of the south pressure plane to that main north pressure feed that's going up cross country.
So it's going from 24 to 16 to 12?
Yes.
And the
And
water,
of-
how does, just me asking, how does the water from a bigger pipe come down, down, down? How do you make it come down south?
Remember that 24 is still going north,
Okay.
so we're just tapping into it. It's basically like tapping in a water line to your refrigerator, freezer. We're just pulling some of that water off, but it's
Okay.
still, we're gonna have that same volume.
Okay.
Good question.
You make a 12-12-16T.
16 by 12. They do make them. They're gonna be, they are a challenge right now in our market.
16 by 16T with reducers.
That's probably what it'll be, yeah, you're right.
Okay. All right, enough nerding out for us.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
We adopt this project.
Yeah. All right, anybody? care
I
to make
said
a
I
motion?
move that we adopt
Okay, I'm
E4.
sorry.
I'll second.
I had a motion and a second to approve item E4. And is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And E5.
Item E5 is a resolution awarding the Leary Lane Sidewalk Project from John Stockbauer Drive to Dean Cook Drive to Staff Concrete Construction of Victoria, Texas, in the low proposed amount of $377,465.
Long time coming. Thank you all for your patience. Project location is from Dean Cook to Stockbauer. This will complete the sidewalk along Leary Lane and connect the schools to Stockbauer. What we did, I want to show some pictures of it. As you can see, there were some deep ditches. That was part of the issue of it. So we're enclosing some of these where we don't have that room to put the sidewalk in. And then on the other picture, you'll see there's still a ditch, but what we've done is, in order to save money and move this project along, is acquire easements. Get that easement, put it on the other side of the ditch in a sidewalk easement. So that's why the cost is what it came down to, and we were able to speed the project along. There's another picture just showing some more of where the sidewalk will go, some of the ditch that we've got to cover up. Project details, we had 3 proposals that were submitted. Staff concrete construction for $377,465. Davila paving at $378,550. And then J&R contracting at $617,840. Our budgeted cost on this project was $625,000. We're scheduled to start in November and then complete in June. And we're recommending approval for staff concrete. And one thing I want to point out is the difference between the first and second proposal. That will tell you they were a really good set of plans, a lot of interest in the project, and both Davila and staff are great contractors who worked with both of them.
Where's staff from?
Here in Victoria.
Oh, they are? Okay.
And they've done a lot of concrete work in Victoria.
Oh, okay. I know, I've heard of Davila, I hadn't heard of staff.
You're right, it's a long time coming. I'm very excited
Yes.
to see this.
And that's it.
Ms. Scott, would you please make a motion?
Yes, please. I would move that we approve item E5 to pave a sidewalk on Leary Lane.
I second it.
Thank you, Mrs. Scott, for the motion, and thank you for your determination to get us to this point. We appreciate it.
Tanglewood's next.
We're working on Tanglewood too.
Tanglewood.
But good job, good job.
Thank you.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor of E5?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're on to city manager's report, and we have one this evening. And Mr. Janaszek is gonna lead us through it.
All right. Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to do a short presentation on an amendment that we're proposing to the city's fund balance policy. This is pertaining to the calculation of the reserve requirement for our hotel tax funds. Just a quick background. In October 2020, there's the most recent amendment that we had brought before you, where we created the stabilization fund, and we also added some reserve requirements for internal service funds. This month, we're just, again, doing a report on an amendment to the hot funds reserve policy, and then would bring this item back next month for official approval. So the first paragraph you see here is contained within page 3 of the fund balance policy under the special revenue fund section. Everything in black text is what's currently within the policy, but and what you see here is different from what's in the packet. We did try to clarify some of the wording so that it would communicate what it is that we're actually trying to do with this change. So as you can see here in the first line, we're maintaining the reserve fund just within the motel tax fund itself, removing Convention and Visitors Bureau, and also removing the transfers from the calculation. And the wording that's being added is the reserve will also account for the expenditures in the Economic Development Fund Main Street Program and CVB funds, since these expenditures are funded by the hotel occupancy taxes. Previously, the Main Street Program was contained within the motel tax fund, but in fiscal 23 was moved into the Economic Development Fund. So that's why we're having to add some wording for it.
Can we step back just real quick? And this is just a minor thing. But is it really called the motel tax fund, or is it the hotel occupancy tax fund?
I believe it's hotel occupancy tax fund.
Okay.
So should that change up at that?
But that's not the wording that's in
currently in the policy, but I guess if we need to make that change, we can make that as well.
Just make it consistent.
And while we're here, so the part in yellow, the reserve will also account for, what you're saying is that the 25% reserve includes these
That's
funds?
correct.
Right.
Okay.
Council, basically what we're doing here is, right now you got double accounting. You're accounting for the transfers in one fund, and instead of 25% there, while at the same time you're accounting for the transfer in the other fund, that's sent into the other fund, 25% reserve. So you have overcompensated yourself on reserving extra funds, which is not bad, but it's over conservative. But I think we're moving towards a degree where we want to be more flexible on the reserve, where it allows you to use more money for other programs. Does that make sense?
And you may recall during the budget workshops, I alluded to the fact that this change was coming because when we were trying to, fund different projects, we were somewhat limited based off of this policy.
So under the existing policy, if we were just to look at total expenditures in each one of these funds, it would be $3.6 million or just under 3.7. And that includes transfers from motel fund to CVB, and as well as the Economic Development Fund of $1.1 million. So that 3-month requirement comes out to $921,000. Under the proposed policy, if we remove those transfers out from the calculation, our total expenditures would be just under 2.6 and lower that reserve requirement to $644,000. So this calculation kind of looks at it as if all the departments were just within one fund and we didn't have all the transfers out. So I'll be happy to answer any questions y'all might have.
Does this affect how we account for the hot fund distribution? Or is it affected in any way where we're saving, so we're doing it not in arrears, but?
Well, it's going to affect let me make sure I understand the question. You talking about the $135,000 every year we talked about? It will give you a little more flexibility if you want to look at it that way, because you're reducing your reserve. Does that make sense? But that's just one test. The other test is you got to make sure that your recurring revenue equates close to your recurring expenses. That is the primary test we got to meet first. And right now, that's real tight right now. The reserve is the secondary test I do all the time to make sure we got the reserve.
But I guess just the changing this reserve doesn't, because how we changed the policy a number of years ago, right, that we started saving money so we would be guaranteeing that that money would be there.
Okay, that's the extra reserve. That's in a way it's going to, because that's part of the total reserve too itself. So if you reduce, the reserve in hotel will stay the same. You're not going to have these other reserves necessarily in these other funds now. If I'm making sense to you. Because you're going to set up the total reserve in the hotel fund like it was one fund like existed. And you're not gonna have these other reserves at a higher level in these other funds because it's already covered over here. So your individual, let's say, reserves for the outside agency, they should stay about the same. The only thing we're doing is reducing these other requirements outside the hotel or motel fund. Might make any sense
I think
to
so.
you.
I just want to make sure that we're not changing the way we're distributing,
but
or,
said
you know,
when it's-
collecting, because we're basing it on the previous year's collections. So we know that we received that money, whereas we were going by the current year that we'd be getting money in,
Correct.
and sometimes we'd come up short.
No, we're
Right.
still good on that. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Plus, I want to make sure the point, I still have the reserve for the outside agency as in case things happen. That is being taken care of.
Okay.
I should have started with that, huh?
So the 135,000 is not in that 644,000 reserve? Is it above and beyond that amount?
Yeah, the reserve for the hot fund allocation is stripped out of your overall fund balance before we make this calculation for it. So that money is set aside.
Okay.
All right.
So as Wesley mentioned, we will bring this back up as a action item. If there are no issues, we'll probably just put it on consent if there are no major questions or issues that you have.
I was just going to expand so we can make how it flow a little better. So, because, you know, I want to make sure you're comfortable with what I'm talking about, the reserve and outside agency and all that. And I'll make sure it's next presentation, you see a little more clearly too.
Right, and there was a worksheet that was included within the packet. If you look at, on the right side of it, that reserve for the allocation actually goes up under this new change.
Okay. All right. I'm fine bringing it forward. I think I understand it, so.
Good with me.
All right.
Reserve the right to ask about it again, but.
Yep. There will be no executive session this evening. So, meeting adjourned.
Oh, thank you.